In today's episode of Today in World War II, February 23rd, Soviets are offering really tough demands from the Finns in exchange for peace in the Winter War. The Dutch launch a major strike to protest German persecution of Jews in their country. And finally, U.S. Marines and one Navy corpsman raised the flag over Mount Suribachi and Iwo Jima. Let's get started. On February 23rd, 1940, the Soviets are now negotiating with the Finns to end the war, to agree upon an armistice, a peace agreement, and their first demands are tough. They're demanding at this stage that the Finns cede the entire Karelian Isthmus, where they have been shedding blood, the Finns, the entire time, which has about 10% of their population, and the shores of Lake Ladoga. And they wanted a 30-year lease on the Henker Peninsula that juts out into the Baltic Sea. And they also wanted the Finns to sign a mutual assistance treaty. Well, this was the first offer, and it was a tough one. And the Finns would have to go back and forth, and before deciding what they want to do, the Finns rejected this offer initially, but they didn't really have the leverage anymore because every day the Soviets were getting closer and closer to Viipuri, and they knew they couldn't contain them anymore once they got past Viipuri. Spoiler alert: the actual agreement is not much different than what they got there. In fact, maybe a little bit more punitive. But it'll never be punitive on my part if you decide not to subscribe to my channel. I hope you would. Okay, I hope that you understand that all of us content creators who aren't monetizing our channels right now, we're just looking to build them. The best thing you can do is to support us by subscribing and then liking our videos and leaving comments. That's the secret to growing a YouTube channel. That's really it. That and putting the consistent content up. I'm doing my part. You got to do your part, okay? Thanks. On February 23rd, 1941, in Amsterdam, the Dutch Communist Party had called for a protest strike against the Germans for how they'd been persecuting the Jews. Interesting that the strike actually caught on, and many businesses and many workers participated. As far as I know, with the exception of the Danish resistance, this was the only other organized uh, action to support the Jews and to protest what was going on with it. Because too many times the latent or very obvious anti-Semitism of places was such that nobody gave a crap about the Jews. A lot of people actually believed in the Nazi propaganda, and not just Nazi. There's a lot of anti-Semitism going on for centuries, in Eastern Europe, and not just Eastern Europe, Western Europe as well. And so, for the Dutch to even attempt to strike to support the Jews and to protest, that was ballsy. And I have the utmost respect for the Dutch when it comes to that. Like I said, the Danes, they helped get their Jews across the narrow strait into Sweden, the majority of them before they were rounded up by the Gestapo. Dutch didn't have that luxury. There was no neutral country close by. They couldn't do that. But the very minimum, protesting like that, going on strike, and they paid the price for it too. The Germans were not going to let that go easily, but kudos for them. I really respect that. And then finally, on February 23rd, 1945, fierce fighting has continued to happen on Iwo Jima, and I told you that the mountain, Mount Suribachi, on the very left part of the little peninsula that's jutting out from the main island, that was a key goal for the Americans to take early in the invasion, because think of all the artillery spotting could be done. There could be all that fire could be directed on the Americans on the beach or the ones crossing open ground to get those two airfields in the middle of the island. So the Americans fought the Marines fought very, very well and savagely to take that as soon as they could. It only took them a couple of days to do so. And to commemorate the Marines getting control of Mount Suribachi, they sent down to the fleet and asked for an American flag. They got one flag and they lifted it up, but they found that the ships down in offshore said that the flag was too small. Could they redo it? And they sent a much bigger flag over this time. And this was the shot. The second shot was the one that became famous. And you can see it all over the place. It is a symbol of the Marine Corps, and it was Marines and Navy corpsmen. If you want to see a really good movie, it's a dramatic movie. It's not a documentary, but it's really good. A Clint Eastwood director. It's called Flag of Our Fathers. Some tragic histories there with the Marines and the corpsmen that did that, raised the flag like that. Joe Rosenthal, I believe, AP photographer, was one that shot the actual event with him actually raising it up, and that was a huge morale boost to the Marines who were just getting the living crap kicked out of them. But they never quit, and they never stopped advancing. But boy, they paid a price. Well, that's the end of today's video. I appreciate you and your support, and I'll get you more tomorrow.